Welcome back to the channel. I found something out that interested me concerning Pulse Chain, just a resource and someone that crunched some numbers that caught my attention and I found some value in, and I just wanted to share this with you guys. I'm really using some of my channel just to republish what I'm paying attention to, what I'm thinking, what I'm finding interesting, and this is one of those things. So this is a video by Diamond Hands YouTube. This is what he looks like, and this is his channel. If you want to find it, I'll put a link to this in the description. But he crunched some interesting numbers, and I think it's partially interesting because it is not, the Pulse Chain specifically is not necessarily perfectly straightforward in how one would know who is a whale, shark, dolphin, or squid. Part of the reasoning why it's not the most straightforward thing is that I believe around 90% of supply is owned by the origin address of Hex. And he basically makes some conclusions and assumptions that I tend to agree with, saying that he's going to take out that origin address and look at what he is calling user supply. He's basically not considering the origin address as a user. He's pushing that out. So these numbers are to define what a whale is. A whale, by a lot of definitions, owns 1% of supply, shark 0.1. But just to be very clear, he is clarifying that these are of user-owned supply. And I think that makes sense to me. I think the way that he approached this was good as far as I can tell. And he went ahead and just calculated of user supply, how much pulse do you need to have to be a squid, for example. And I'll just tell you, to be a squid, if you have over 130 million pulse tokens, then you're at the beginning of what it takes to be a squid. Just as an example, a dolphin would be 1.3 billion pulse tokens. If you do not know how much pulse you have, I'm going to put this link down below also, but you can go to Pulse Sacrifice Checker. I'll put it, like I said, I'll have a link there. Just copy in your public key, of course, not your private key, your public key, paste it in here, and it'll pump back out your pulse, the pulse that it's calculated that you're getting, as well as your pulse X. But this particular chart here is just concerning Pulse Chain, and you can take the numbers from that to have an idea of where you stand relative to other people. If you're like me, you're going to find out that you might not be that big of a holder, and you could look at that as a negative or a positive. I would say the positive side of it is Pulse Chain has received a lot more attention and adoption compared to at least Hex when it first started. The dollar amount that you would have needed to sacrifice for Pulse Chain would just have to have been a lot greater to be a whale, for example, than if it was Hex in the beginning. And why I could consider that a good thing is Pulse is getting adoption. Pulse Chain is getting adoption. Pulse Chain clearly got attention. There were some really big players that are apparently willing to sacrifice, some of them millions of dollars, for this Pulse Chain idea. And I think that could give adoption and attention to Richard Heart in general and Richard Heart's other projects. I think there's going to be some carryover from this, possibly over to Hex. And I could see that as a good thing. I think Richard Heart's projects in general getting attention is just going to carry over and help his other projects. And I think the projects surrounding other projects, I think indirectly Hex is going to be helped, and from that, potentially Hedron and Icosa and these other Maxim or whatever other project you want to mention. I think it's only going to add more attention to these other projects. So you could potentially see this as a good thing if you at least you could try to look at it in the positive, and I really do think that is the case. We've got a lot of money here. We've got a lot of attention, a wider user base. It's probably going to carry over to some of our other projects that we're invested in as well. Anyway, I just wanted to share this with you guys because I found it interesting, and I really hadn't done any calculations to find out where I stood versus other people when it came to pulse chain, and this was interesting to me, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Thanks to Diamond Hands for crunching some numbers for us, and hope this was useful to you guys. I'll talk to you in the next one. See you later.